is about 4:30. Same location. Just moved the chair in position. Kind of got a wind coming up from the mountain, and I don't want the breeze affecting the microphone if I can help it. Been kind of interesting as of lately. Just about a half hour ago, I heard 3 gunshots. Just 3 simultaneous bang, bang, bang. It sounded like the same kind of rifle as last week, but not nearly as many shots. This time it was only 3 rather than 60. It's not hunting season, and I don't know if shooting is allowed up here. I don't know. I'm not sure. Just kind of feel like if somebody was target shooting, it would be pretty consistent for about, a period of time while someone's sighting in their rifle. But if just, so only 3 shots. I've been out here since about 8:30, 8:15 this morning. Haven't heard a single gunshot up until just a half hour ago, and it's three in a row. I'm not too worried about it. I feel like I got friends up here right now. Had a few trucks. There's a road right up behind there. Had a few trucks go by really slow. And the people looking down like they know I'm down here, and they wave at me and I wave back. So it's just kind of, I'm getting good vibes that I got friends out here that know who I am, and they're out doing their patrolling, because there might be some bad guys up here in the hills. At this point in the game, as far as where I'm at today, for August 15th and everything that's been happening, I just pretty much go with the idea that I might have bad guys, enemies that are constantly trying to get close to me, figure out where I'm at or what I'm doing, and every once in a while there might be some that have bad intentions, and my friends take care of them, which is why every once in a while I hear gunshots. Just last night when I was where I was camping, while I was asleep, I woke up to the sound of 1 gunshot, just 1, but because the gunshot had woken me up, I could not tell if it had anything to do with maybe I was having a dream and that's what woke me up, or if I actually did hear a gunshot and that's what woke me up. Can't tell. This has been happening more and more frequently as of since just around the 4th of July, about a week before the 4th of July, when I got the van. I got the van about a week and a half before the 4th of July, and that's when everything really started accelerating and getting pretty wild. At some point I'm going to be talking about everything that's happened in this past 2 months, but we're just not there yet. Right now I'm just kind of touching bases on this because, just like, half hour ago there's 3 gunshots, so that's kind of why I'm talking about it now, so I don't forget about it. But with things that have happened, that have really happened in the last month and a half, 2 months, it doesn't surprise me when I do hear gunshots. Like I've mentioned in my previous videos, that the law enforcement and the military, federal agencies, they're aware of me. They know who I am. Not just my name, but they know who I am, which is why, as all of this has been going down, the law enforcement, they're not messing with me. None of them are ever messing with me. I see them all the time, but they're not messing with me. They're just making their presence known, and that they're doing their jobs. As far as I'm concerned, all law enforcement is watching my back. So whenever I do see law enforcement, it doesn't matter if it's local police, county, like sheriff, county deputies, state police. Doesn't matter whoever, fishing game, park rangers. I'm not worried about it. Whenever I see them, I would like to wave at all of them, but it's kind of a game right now. We're just kind of pretending we don't know each other. Don't forget, my grandpa was chief of police for 30 years, and he's a veteran. He was in the Navy. So That's in my family background. Um, I don't really know much about my grandpa's story. I just know things that he did, and then my dad. I don't know if my dad's just a complete fuck up. Since my grandpa passed on, whatever my dad has inherited or whatever he has signed up for or has got involved with, that has taken my life in such a downhill course. I don't know if it's just a product of my dad inheriting something that I have no knowledge of, and he's just fucked it all up. Maybe, I don't know. I don't. At this point, I don't even know what he does for a living as far as his occupation. I mean, I have an idea as far as what I've been told he does within the construction industry, but I don't necessarily believe that's what he does. And at some point, I will get into this. Um, but again, I'm just kind of talking about this right now as for why I would even believe gunshots are, I hear gunshots, why I would even believe it's associated with me. I'm not saying every time I hear a gunshot that I believe it is, but as of lately, I feel like it is, because up until this past couple months, never heard gunshots, never have had any of these experiences where I feel like there's just this war where things are happening just beyond my line of sight, like from because I only have my perspective, I can only see through my eyes, and so it's like I feel like beyond what I can physically see is where things are taking place between bad guys and good guys and all this stuff. I mean, it just seems like as soon as I turn my back, that's when all these things are taking place, and it's entirely so that I cannot witness something and then turn around and be like, you guys, I just saw this happen. It's always just beyond my line of sight, but a lot of times I can hear things happening, and I know. Malaki, what do you got? What are you doing? Malaki's, we get it. Malaki's in a good state. He's well. Um, he's happy and healthy. And right now, like, we're in grizzly territory, so I got to be really mindful of him, and listening. You see me looking around all the time. I'm not being paranoid. It's like I'm listening, because we are in grizzly territory, grizzly bears. So if I hear anything, branches or sticks breaking, I just got to be aware of my surroundings. So looking forward, anytime you see me out looking around, it's because I hear something and I'm just being aware. Doesn't have anything to do like, oh my God, there might be somebody. I don't give a fuck. I just got to make sure I'm keeping track of Malaki and making sure that there's not anything that's a threat to him. Because he's pretty good. He's off leash right now. He's pretty good at just hanging around with me, and I don't even have to worry about him. But every once in a while, he starts getting a little curious and going beyond where he should, and he just has to stay close. That way I can try to keep tabs of him. Come here. Lay down right there. Lay down. Good boy. Yep, so, after all this time, he's doing really well. Since we've been in the van, he's with me 24 hours a day. The only time he gets left alone is when I'm going in and out of the store, or gotta go inside like the library or something. It's a place they can't necessarily be with me, but he's usually the rest of the day he's with me wherever I go. Anytime I'm outside, just have him on a leash, and he just goes where I go. Yeah, he's a good doggy. He's almost 8 years old, believe it or not. His birthday's somewhere around Thanksgiving. I don't know the exact day. I just know it's right around Thanksgiving, near the end of November. And I've had him since he was 6 weeks old. I got him. He was only about this big. He looked like a little red and white Tasmanian devil. Like I said, I don't have my external hard drives on me, so as I'm telling you these things, I'm not going to be able to get my external hard drive and get all these pictures and show them to you as for examples, so I can just tell you about it. Whatever I can, once I get to the video editing process, whatever pictures or videos I can find, whatever I do have access to, I will try and include as much as possible. But yeah, I thought I was gonna just jump right into where I left off on the previous episode, but considering I heard the 3 gunshots, I just kind of wanted to talk about it, and now we kind of just expanded on that a little bit. So we only got like 10 minutes left before the clock resets, so I might as well just stop the camera, and then I'm just going to start talking right again. So just give me a moment. All right. All right. Reset this. I have using my phone as a clock countdown timer. 20 minutes. All right. So if you watched the previous episode, then you're ready for me to continue forward. That means in regards to the ranch hand horse guiding job that I took for the summer, after I got back from Hawaii, went to the ranch, worked in Colorado for 70 days, and then I hitchhiked home. There's a whole bunch of stuff I could tell you about that time frame. Maybe at some point I'll backtrack when we start talking about spiritual phenomenon. There's some really crazy spiritual things, extra. I don't know trying to think of the word. Paranormal experiences. That might be the better word to use. That happened in Colorado. There's some weird shit that happened there. Things that I experienced and witnessed. And at some point, I'll probably talk about it whenever that subject comes up. But if I talk about it now, that's probably going to take like 20 minutes, so there's no point. It's kind of just like a little side thing. But eventually, I returned, made it all the way back to Central Oregon after hitchhiking from Colorado back there. Colorado, Central Oregon, 1,100 miles in 36 hours, catching about 15 different rides from 15 different strangers. So, that was the first time I've ever hitchhiked. I actually had a pretty good experience with it. Met a lot of really nice people. Over that distance that I traveled, there were a few people that I rode with that gave me like a ride for like 3 or 4 hours. So like, especially there's one couple, or it was like a mom, say just a grandma, her daughter, so the mom, and then their 2 children. So it was 2 females and 2 children, and they picked me up. There was not a single male. There's like 2 boys, like young, but it was 2 women that decided to pick me up, and they just I think it was like a van or SUV, and I just sat in the back, and their kids sat in the middle, and then they're up front. And I had all my stuff in the back, like my backpacks with me. But they picked me up eastern Idaho and gave me a ride all the way to the Oregon-Idaho border, so on the west side. So I rode with them for like 200 miles or so. That was a long trip, and they were really nice. They ended up, we stopped in Twin Falls, Idaho, and they got lunch, and they bought me lunch. I'm just somebody they picked up on the side of the road, just with my thumb out and a sign that says I'm heading west to Oregon, and it ended up being a really nice experience. But I have a lot. I always have stories on stories on stories on stories. So it's like I could tell you stories on stories about all of my hitchhiking thing. But are we gonna sit here for half an hour and just hear about my hitchhiking? No, we're just trying to breeze through that a little bit, get a general idea of the direction I was going. So I hitchhiked all the way back to Central Oregon. I told you in the last video. Once I got back home, I quit that job because of all the circumstances I described. It was not a good job. It was like I was a slave there. And being treated the way I was and disrespected the way I was by the owner of that place, and being accused of things that I didn't have anything to do with. So that's why I left and was willing to hitchhike all the way back to Central Oregon, because of how bad the working conditions were. But yet, for some reason, when I get home, my father for some reason doesn't believe me, and Heath believes that I got fired, even though he wasn't there, and he supposedly has no knowledge about anything that I was doing there, but he has the idea that I got fired. So he has this really pissy attitude with me, as if I slacked off while I was there. I don't fucking know. This is where, I will connect these dots later for you. At the time, I had no idea. Right now, I do have an idea about why he was acting the way he was. And I'll just tell you the answer now is because he's been watching and keeping track of me without my knowledge for a very long period of time. He's been connected to something and has pledged to something, agreed to something a long time ago. And at that stage in my life, he was already connected to it. And so I had certain individuals keeping tabs on me, which may have actually even been the owner of that lodge. Like, he directly connected to the 3 names that I've listed. I'm not going to list them now, but I have listed those names before. There's 3 names, and my father is one of them. There's 2 other individuals. And if you guys have been around long enough, if you've watched enough of my videos, you should know who the other 2 people are. One of them was one of the individuals that was a product of me getting arrested, and the other one is the person that's orchestrating the whole thing. So there's 3 names I've listed, and my own father has been connected to those other 2 names since before Hawaii. I don't know why, but it is. I can explain where I believe it began, but just not at the current moment. You just guys got to be patient. I'm just hinting at stuff. I'm not hinting at stuff expecting to just leave you hanging. Like, no, I'm mentioning things, but these things I'm mentioning will take a long time. It'll take time to talk about. And so it's just, getting it in your mind so at some point you're kind of prepared. With that said, with me coming back to Oregon and my father treating me as if I had just gotten fired, and then just treating me like I'm a piece of shit for no reason, and I can't figure out why. At the time, I could not figure out why. Why are you being this way all the time? I didn't know if it had a product to do with his alcoholism, or his other issue. He's got another issue, and it's... I know if I talk about it, he's going to get fucking pissed. Because it's been a big secret for his entire life, and it was a secret from my mom for, I think, at least 19 years, 20 years of their marriage, where my mom had been married to my dad for like 20 years. And it wasn't until around the time that my sister was getting married when my own mom found out that my dad dresses up like a woman. Right? Yeah, I'm being surreal. I'm being sincere. Apparently, at the time, I would not find out. When my mom found out, I would not find out until a few years later. Okay, so when my sister got married, she got married, I think, when she was around 19 years old, which was around 2006 or 2007, I believe. I might be wrong, but it's around those years. Because I was still in high school, and my sister, so whatever. But my mom found out that my dad dresses like a woman, like full-on woman. Okay. Dresses up with a wig, bra, panties, stockings, dress, fingernail polish, makeup. I've never seen this with my own eyes, just mind you. But he has a collection of women's clothing, undergarments, and lingerie. When she found out about it, it was a pretty big deal, and she kept it secret from me for a very long time. I don't need to go into detail about all of it. I'm just telling you what he is. The big secret, the big fucking secret of my family, that my dad would probably fucking kill me for letting the public know this on camera, on my YouTube channel, that I'm talking about this right now. He would kill me. But that's okay because he's already tried multiple times, and he blundered big time. He blundered big time on June 14th. He established that he would rather have me locked up forever or dead just so that he can maintain his secret and all the other fucked up things that God knows all the things that he's done. I only know about what I've found out. I don't even know about all the other stuff that I have no knowledge of. But considering that he's willing to do me dirty, now I don't even care anymore. I mean, I'm living in my van and I haven't talked to him since I left Oregon. You know, so like that's already established. So I'm pretty much, like I said, I'm gonna talk and share everything I know, and the only way for the bad guys to stop me is if they fucking come catch me or come try and kill me or whatever. Which is where, I keep saying I got law enforcement and the military, the veterans, military veterans. I got a long list of friends and supporters of all different occupations and fields that are watching my back all over a very large span of not just Wyoming or Oregon, but probably across the United States. People who know about me at this stage in the game, people who find out about me and then they go tell their friends and family and then they go tell their friends and family. There's just chain of people who have over a long period of time who have heard about me and bits and pieces of my story and where we're at now. I feel like everybody who has heard about me, they've been waiting for me to come back on camera, since I've been released from my incarceration. Like since then, people have been waiting for 4 years, 5 years for me to come back on camera and start speaking again. But I've been in this very deep chess game against my own father and whoever the fuck he's connected to. I mean, there's 2 other names who I know he's connected to, but whoever else beyond those 3 names, I'm not really sure. And that's where law enforcement and military, they're doing their jobs, getting everybody identified. I'm just playing my position, and if this is giant board game of multi-dimensional chess, I can only play my role. I can only do what I'm capable of, and I cannot concern myself about things that are beyond my control. It's a matter of communicating with my friends and supporters and all of them, letting them know where I'm at on the board, both mind, body, and soul, where I'm at psychologically, where I'm at physically, where I'm at spiritually, and so to communicate with you guys, so wherever you're at, I'm good. I'm dealing with some real shit, but I'm good. After everything I've been through, I've come out of the darkness and all that stuff, and so now I can communicate with you guys with full confidence, knowing that you guys got me back while I share my story. Before I got arrested, as bad as everything was, I didn't trust anybody. Even people that may have been my friends and supporters, I could not tell the difference between friends and foes, because a lot of people who were pretending to be my friends were actually the bad guys who were just trying, keep your friends close but your enemies closer, that saying. But it turned out like a lot of these people that I thought were friends were not my friends at all. They were just playing me. That's a downside of social media. If you don't know who you're really talking to, and really you don't really know who you're talking to, whoever you're talking to, if you've never met them, they could be anybody. And so before my arrest, I just didn't trust anybody. I didn't know who was corrupted. I didn't know who had sold out. And so I just tried to treat everybody the same and just have to figure it out as I went. So that was where a lot of my hostility and angerness was coming from at that time around my arrest. I just didn't know who I could trust. It was just a matter of me trying to stay alive. But yeah, so let's keep, like I said, I'm kind of deviating, going back way up ahead, but we got to remember going back to me returning from Colorado, and so we're going back into 2016. So when I came home, my dad has this really bad attitude with me, and I can't figure out why. After everything I had just gone through in Colorado, all the hard work I did, and all it's just nothing but bullshit. There was only, out of those 70 days I was there, there's only like 4 days that was actually fun. The rest of it was just nonsense. So I come home. You know, Malaki's not in my life yet. Just remember that. It's just me. I don't have a vehicle. So once I make it home, I'm pretty much stuck. And then I have my family on my over my shoulder the entire time, just breathing this pressure on me. Like, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? And then, you know, I ended up having to wait till the end of that month. I think it was the month of August. Before I got the second half of what was owed, you know, my paycheck. I told you that the owner said he would send the other half of my paycheck because he only gave me the first half. He said he'd give me the second half once we got to the end of the month. It might have been July. I can't remember. I think it was July when I quit. I don't know. I just know I lasted 70 days there. But I had to wait till the end of the month that I returned before I got the second half of that money, which was only $1,100. So altogether, $2,200 for all the work. And then so because that's not that much, and that was not even enough to get me a vehicle to where I could even get, you know, just drive anywhere. I couldn't even commute anywhere. I was using my mom's Ford Explorer. Once I made it back to Oregon, I was using her car to commute around town and do errands and all that stuff. But beyond that, it was her vehicle. She was still working at the time, so she had to use the vehicle when she had to go to work, or I had to take her to work, and then I had the car for the day, and I have to go pick her up. That's what the situation was. My dad obviously didn't like that because I didn't have a job anymore, and I didn't have my own vehicle, and I'm using his wife's vehicle. So it just it's always under his microscope. Everything I was doing, he disapproved of. It was just always being an asshole. Okay. And the reason why I keep bringing him up is because of what he's done as of recent. You're gonna understand why I keep bringing him up, because at the time I didn't know that he was involved in any of this shit. I didn't know he was directly involved with it, but right now I keep bringing it up because I'm mentioning these observations I was making as I was going at that stage in time. Okay, I just kept making these observations about him that just wasn't necessarily making sense. Okay, so as I'm at the house, you know, I'm there for about a month, a few weeks or so. And I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do now. I'm not broke all the way because I got these 2 paychecks from there, so I'm not necessarily broke. I have a little wiggle room to figure out what I'm going to do next, but not enough to make any big moves. I ended up getting on Craigslist again and just looking for any type of work. You know, what was even being posted on Craigslist around Central Oregon. Just looked. At the time when I was looking for a job, because I just had to deal with it, just get some type of job and work for a while, because I need to get a vehicle or save up enough to go somewhere different than Central Oregon. I just have to get out of there as soon as possible, however possible. I ended up applying. I think I only applied for like 2 different jobs, but I didn't even really put much heart into it. I just applied for them. I didn't at the time. I didn't even remember doing it. I know I did it, but I saw it too, sent my name and a little bit about myself, and I made my own resume, attached that, and then sent it off, and pretty much forgot about it because I just didn't really know if I'd hear back. And because of what I was dealing with at my family's house, I couldn't stay. I did not want to stay there anymore. And with my experience I had just had with hitchhiking from Colorado all the way to back to Oregon, I'd gotten confidence. I became confident with hitchhiking, knowing that I could just go out and stick my thumb out, and at some point somebody would pick me up. So I kind of wanted, at that point in time, I believe it was August or early September. It was right around that time frame, maybe the end of August. If I had my external hard drives, I could go find pictures that I took and then get the actual official, like the literal dates of when all this was happening. I'm just going off memory, so just be mindful of that. But I made a decision that I wanted to kind of hitchhike around Oregon through the autumn, like, you know, through September for like a month. I was just gonna pack my backpack, and then just hitchhike around Oregon and just try to do a big circuit around. And then in that time frame, I want to do some photography, take pictures of all the different places I go. Maybe try selling those pictures by the time I'm done. But once wintertime comes, then maybe I will have a better plan, or I will have found a job or somewhere that would support me through the winter. Um, so that's what I ended up. All right. So it's been about 20 minutes since the video cut. I hit the button. I mean, you can see me hitting the button if you watched the beginning of the last cut. But for some reason, my phone didn't register me pushing it. And so I never heard the alarm. So I spoke for probably about 10 or 15 minutes, not knowing that the timer was off because I was so consumed with the story. So that was kind of frustrating once I realized that's what happened. So I ended up eating dinner and reviewing the video. So I think it's actually been about 45 minutes or so. So that's going to be something that you might experience as I share videos where I might be talking about something and then the video just cuts, and then the next time, once it starts again, the lighting might be different, like it's a different time of day. The way I'm speaking might be a little bit different. My energy might be a little bit different. It's just a product of once the video cut, there may have been circumstances outside of me, whether it's just something to do with the dog or to eat something, take a break, get a drink, go to the bath, whatever. It's just a break that kind of disrupts the flow that I'm in. And so if, as you can see, the lighting's probably different from just a moment ago because it's been a little bit of time. So I had to review the footage, this last clip, on my computer just so I know what I was talking about when the video ended. So I was just about to say that, with this trip, this plan on hiking around Oregon, Crater Lake was my starting point, essentially. I was going to be spending the entire month. My plan was to spend the month of September just hitchhiking and hiking to different parts of Oregon. I was probably going to go from Crater Lake to southwest, or the very southwest corner of Redmond, or of Oregon, and go up the Oregon coast, probably the whole length of the Oregon coast between hiking and hitchhiking. That's probably what I was going to do. It was just a matter of getting there. So my mom is the one who brought me to Crater Lake. She drove me from Oregon, drove me from Redmond to Crater Lake, which is like probably about a 3-hour drive or so. And I'm just trying to backtrack about the things that I talked. Like I said, I talked for about 10 or 15 minutes, and so now I'm pretty much repeating myself, and I'm just trying to remember what I mentioned. So my mom and I have always been close. We've always talked, and she's always been around to support me when I've needed it most. She's in the sense of all the different things I've wanted to do in my life, as far as making my own path. She's never really stood in my way. She's just allowed me to live my life without being too much of an obstacle. She's just allowed me to be. While my dad, on the other hand, is complete opposite. He's trying to control every aspect. But my mom, she's always been around for me to talk to, even up to this day, up until this last month. All the way up until this last month, I've always looked at her as someone I could talk to about anything. And I have always hoped and felt that she's felt the same way, where she can talk to me about anything. Her and I have had some pretty deep conversations, even from her on her end, her telling me about all her issues and things that she's gone through in the past and what she's still dealing with. Like, so I'm really aware of uh, where she's at. But as of most recently, how things have kind of evolved, I don't have answers, and so I just don't know where she's really at. Like, if she's really in a bad situation where she's being like a slave, prisoner, hostage, being forced against her will to do things she doesn't want to do and to keep her mouth shut when she knows things, any combination of what I just said, whatever that means. She's not being allowed to be her true, genuine self because of the person she's married to, her husband, my supposed father. So at the current moment, I just don't know if her situation is just really bad and she's just terrified, um, or if everything that I have perceived, like a worst case scenario, everything that I have perceived about her may not be entirely true, and she could have been playing me the entire time. I really hope not, but as things have progressed and all these bad things have happened right before I left Oregon, trying to share these most critical things that have happened, and being told that I hallucinated it, and it's almost like everything I have felt like everything that she said to counter what I've shared with her, like just not pretty much not believe, essentially bottom line, not believing anything I've said and standing uh, in defense of my dad, saying that he didn't do any of the things I know he did. um, I'm going to explain all this later, so don't worry about it. um, but I'm just saying, I don't know if it's because I don't know if she's been playing me, and because I've caught him, it means that she might be getting caught, and now it's both of them working together to try and manipulate my perception of reality to get me to question myself and to question the things that happened. I don't know if that's how bad it is, or if she's being threatened and forced to do the things that she's and behave the way she's been behaving and do the things that she's been doing is a product of my father forcing her to, or else something bad will happen, and that's all it is. And if that's the case, that's those answers are not something that I have, but I'm saying that law enforcement and military, probably whoever's watching my back and whoever's listening, fucking flies, Jesus. They're bad. Bugs are bad. It's pretty ridiculous. Even with bug spray, flies are so stupid. Um, but the situation is so bad that I'm just hoping that with me being gone, that law enforcement and military are doing their jobs in the sense of keeping tabs on what they're talking about and everything that's taking place behind my back without my knowledge. So everything that's happening at their house, that they're aware of it, and so they have the answer in regards to my mom's position, whether it's all just been a big fat lie, and I'm the one that's been the hostage and prisoner this whole time, and everything I've perceived has just been a big lie, and they're aware of all of it, or it's I don't know, but I'm just hoping by the end of this big story I tell, I'm hoping that the outcome involves all the bad guys getting arrested, which includes my dad and everybody connected to him, and if that means the majority of my entire family line, or most of my family line, I'm talking about extended family included. I know that one of my dad's sister, so my aunt, I know she's involved, and I know her two daughters, so my two cousins, I know they're involved. My dad's involved, so that's 4. I don't know if my sister's involved. I have an older sister. She's 4 years older than me. Considering she never talks to me, has never acted like she cares about anything that has gone on in my life. especially since my arrest. Like, she has not even tried to have a conversation with me to ask me how I'm doing, or my perspective on anything that's happened. Never even taken a moment of her time to ask me. And the fact that everything that's happened in the past 2 months, with me getting a van and just leaving Oregon, she's never texted me, has never called me to ask me why, for my perspective. So as far as I know, if she had no knowledge of it, then my guess is my father, Jerry, went and told her a bunch of lies, and so she has a perception about me that is entirely false. That's a possibility. Or she's part of it. She might have been the one who took my dog from the house. Once he got drugged, she might have been the one that slipped him out of the house while I was upstairs. Maybe. I'm not saying she is. I'm not saying she isn't. But the fact that she's never stepped forward to try and communicate with me and figure out what's going on, it just makes me believe that she's scared that I'm aware of I've caught some people, and that if there's a possibility that she's connected to it, that would make her scared, because at some point that would mean she would be exposed too. I'm not saying she is. I'm not saying she isn't. But I feel like if she was innocent and had nothing to do with it, what that she would step up and try and help me in any capacity that she could, knowing that, oh fuck, she's my sister. Would be like, our dad did this to me and tried to set me up and stuff. Like, you feel like she would be just as angry as I am and confront him like I have. But as far as I know, that's never taken place. So what am I supposed to believe? So I don't know if my sister's part of it. That's 5. My dad has a brother, and he has, so I have an uncle, and he's married. So I have another aunt and uncle. Never heard from them. They have 2 daughters, so 2 cousins. I don't know where they're at in all of this. So I don't, between my dad, his older brother, and his younger sister, and fucking flies are bad. I have so many flies flying around my face. So those 3, there's 2 brothers and a sister who are all offspring of my grandpa, their father, who was chief of police for 30 years. And so what does that even mean? Like, I don't know if my entire family's part of this, or if it's just a few. But the fact that nobody has ever stepped forward to try to help me, and my mom has done everything she could to try helping me, but I feel like she knows stuff, but she can't tell me, which makes me feel like she's being forced to not be allowed to tell me. Because if she tells me, then I'm going to know the truth, and then that's going to create all kinds of issues for this big secret. And so she's pushing 70 years old. Like, what is she going to do? She doesn't have a capacity to move out, to get in a divorce and go live on her own. Everything's too expensive. She doesn't have the health to carry herself and do all these physical tasks without hurting herself, and she needs help. And that's why I've been around for all this time, trying to help her as much as I can. So, I said I was going to be talking about Crater Lake, but I haven't even really talked about Crater Lake. I just brought up my mom. So I'm just trying to create this background so you're aware of this relationship I have with her. As far as I'm concerned, I don't have a bad relationship with my mom. Like, I feel like I'm pretty close to her. But right now, this current circumstance and situation, I don't know what is and what isn't. Because ever since like I died in Hawaii, and then woke up like it never happened, it's like everything that I've thought is, coming back to the mainland after all those experiences. It's like, it almost feels like my parents are different. Like, they're not my parents, but they are my parents, but they're not my parents. And that's crazy to say, but the way that I've been treated since I've returned home from Hawaii after all that stuff went down, and how everything has progressed, it's really weird. And that's where I'm hoping to. It's where I can't claim certain things to be absolutes, and what is and what isn't. Some things I can and I can't, just based off my experiences. But I have a long list of unanswered questions, and I'm doing the best that I can to use my intuition and just my intelligence to figure things out for myself as I've been going, because nobody has stepped forward to give me any answers. So with all that said, you know, establish, as far as all this shit that I'm dealing with now, I've established where my mom, where I feel, how I feel about my mom and my dad. You know, my dad's straight up evil. He's a tranny, I guess you'd call that, dresses like a woman, you know, dresses as an opposite gender and talks like it, so I guess I'd define him as a transgender tranny. And he would murder me, give him the opportunity, especially because I'm saying this on camera. And then I've established about my relationship with my mom, how I've always been able to talk to her and all this, and that she's always been around to support me as I've been going about this lifestyle that I have since I quit Costco. So I got 5 minutes before I'm out of time, so I just gotta keep that in mind. So going back to Crater Lake 2016 with my plan to spend all of September hiking around Crater Lake. It was my mom who drove me to Crater Lake and just dropped me off there. Okay. She just dropped me off. She knew I was going to be gone for a month. She knew what my plan was. I had my backpack and a duffel bag that had food, warm clothes, camera stuff, everything that I believed I would need. It was it was way too much weight for me. I would not have been able to make it around Oregon with that much weight without killing myself or by breaking my back in the process. But that's what she dropped me off with, and then she drove all the way back to Redmond, 3 hours up to Crater Lake, and then all 3 hours all the way back down to Redmond, just because she was my mom, she cared, and she was allowing me to get out of the house and get away from my dad, because she knows him and I have had issues for a long time, and so she's always been like this mediator, doing everything she can to keep a peace between us, and she has my respect for that, because consider everything that's happened. Everything's still together. But she dropped me off. I only got 3 minutes left. I don't want to get in a flow and then get interrupted. So I'm gonna stop the video and then I'm gonna start it again. All right. So I reset that. Make sure it's going. Yeah. So my mom drops me off at Crater Lake, right around the Crater Lake Lodge, and then she leaves. And then I spent 3 days there. My first day and second day, it was beautiful weather. I think it was like in the 70s. It got really warm. And I spent those 2 days doing a lot of photography and time lapses. I made time lapses. We pretty much just set the camera up like how I have it set up now, but I have it set up in time lapse mode. So it takes a picture every like 5 or 6 seconds. I can make it whatever I want, but say for instance I have the camera take a picture every 5 seconds and have it take a picture every 5 seconds for like 3 hours, and then by the time that 3 hours ends, I have like a minute-long clip showing all of the weather changes and all compressed into a minute-long video. 3 hours into 60 seconds. That's what a time lapse is, But you can totally fluctuate with the intervals between photos and how long you want to do it. But if you've ever watched any of my old videos, all the way back on the early part of my YouTube channel, I have a lot of time lapses, and some of them are from Crater Lake, and that's from what I'm talking about now. That's where those came from, was when my mom dropped me off, and I spent 3 days there. But like I said, there's 2 days. It was pretty nice weather. Spent the whole time just along the rim of the Crater Lake, and just playing with my camera and stuff, and lounging in my hammock and just hanging out. If I had my external hard drives, I would be able to show these time lapses and photos, but I don't. Fucking mosquitoes flies are terrible. They absolutely drive me nuts. But on that second day, I ended up going through most of the batteries on my camera, so I had to hike over to the Crater Lake Lodge and find a power outlet to get all my batteries recharged. And so that takes like 2 hours to get all that done. So I had my laptop with me. I believe I had my laptop with me, or I might have just been using my phone. either way, I had access to the internet. So while I was there, I was able to check my emails, and that's when I had an email from one of the jobs I had applied for, and that was, I mentioned I told you I applied for 2 jobs on Craigslist right before I planned this month-long trip around Oregon. It was just kind of applied for 2 things just on a whim. But I got a reply from this guy who had his own private business based out of Central Oregon, and that was hanging Christmas lights. Hanging Christmas lights on private residential houses and commercial buildings and stuff for the holiday season, like Christmas time, New Year's. So he contacted me and asked for me to do an interview if I would be interested in one. But at the time, like, I had already, I had just started this trip and it was pretty much in motion. I was already dropped off. And so I kind of I didn't reply, and I just closed the email and just put it aside. And then, Milwaukee, come here. Hey. Squirrel. Come here. Just chasing a squirrel. I kind of forgot all about him. Yeah, you're naughty. You stay here. I don't know if you could have heard the squirrel in the audio. It was chirping, squeaking. But on that second day, I said it was nice weather, and then I kind of just like pushed off that email to the side. I'm planning on doing this trip. I'm sold on it. I was planning on staying around Crater Lake for 3 days, around 3 days, 3 or 4 days, and then I was gonna start moving west towards the Oregon coast. The thing is, that night, some storm front came in and the temperature dropped. It dropped below freezing, and it got so cold that night that I ended up having to get out my emergency bag and climb inside my bag because it was freezing. I was not prepared. Even with all my clothes on and my sleeping bag, I was cold. And I wasn't able to get warm until I got inside my emergency bag, and I was just shriveled up, just like curled in a little ball, trying to maintain my heat through the night. And then that morning, I got up right before, just as the sun, the sun wasn't even up, but it was just starting to get light out enough that I could see. And there was like this much snow on the ground. It was snowing. It was completely cold. And so I was just like, wow, did not see this coming. Because just the 2 days before, just those previous 2 days, it was sunny and hot. Mosquito. And, dude, fly just buzzing right in front of my face and landing on my nose. Like, are you kidding? So I ended up, I was like, I guess I'm not going to be doing this trip. I was just having this internal dialogue, like whatever, just this gut feeling, intuition, something coming into me or whatever, just telling me that I probably shouldn't proceed forward with this backpacking trip, and I should probably try figuring out how to get back to Central Oregon and try to take this job. Just something was telling me that's what I needed to be doing. And so I ended up, it's snowing, it's cold. I ended up packing up. I was sleeping in my tent. I had a little tent that I could fit in my backpack. So I got all of my stuff packed up. I just get on the road. There's the road that goes around the rim of the Crater Lake. And I just started going back the same way that my mom had dropped me off, back towards, if I was going to be heading to Bend or Redmond. And I just start walking down the road, and it's snowing. It's not even sunrise yet. There's nobody out. And I walked probably like an hour, and within an hour, I was completely soaked. Like this, it was like it had turned into like a snow/sleet, like rain, snow, everything was wet. So eventually all my clothes were starting to get soaked through, and I'm just like, this is not good. And at some point, cars start showing up, passing by me, and I gotta catch a ride, I gotta get out of here. So I start put my thumb out, and people are just going past me, and nobody even slowing down or anything. And so as this is happening, just more and more cars eventually pass. Nobody even tries, and I'm just getting frustrated because I'm getting really cold and tired because I'm carrying too much stuff. And I don't know how long this is going to last, and I don't want to stop because if I stop, I'm not going to no longer be warm. I'm going to get, because I'm sweating and wet. I'm just going to start freezing. and I don't want to make a fire. And so at some point, you gotta remember, I've already come back from Hawaii, so I've already had at this time I had those experiences with Grant, and I found God. I believe in God. As at here, we're talking about Crater Lake now, so I've had these experiences. I believe in God. I've had moments and revelations about the existence of God and what this world is and stuff. So that's how I'm operating at the time. And so at some point when nobody's stopping, nobody's stopping, and then like I'm getting frustrated, freezing cold. At some point I just start praying. I just start asking God for somebody to stop. Just somebody stop and pick me up. Like, because I'm not in a good situation. Could get dangerous soon, life-threatening dangerous. Um, and I just, then I start apologizing for things that I've done in the past. Just this whole thing of, like, I felt like it was like what I was doing was like a thing of atonement, like having to walk this path and deal with these challenges and obstacles, kind of as making up for mistakes I've made in the past. I have to struggle and go through these things, and that's wherever that was coming from, that's what was going through my brain. It's like being out there in the cold, in the snow, in that situation. It was me just kind of making up for other things that I've done, and now I'm in a situation where it's up to God to either have some mercy on me or let me struggle for a little while longer. And that's what that conversation was kind of about, just asking for him to have somebody please pull me over. And it's like, and I understand why all these things are happening. And I kid you not, right after I finished having this dialogue with God, this conversation, this prayer, within minutes somebody picked me up. I'm not even kidding. Just some guy that was just driving by himself in his I don't remember what kind of vehicle it was. Might have been like a Subaru or a small SUV or something. But this guy just pulls me over. It's just around sunrise, and then he's just like, "You look cold and wet, man." He tells me I can get in, and so he gave me a ride all the way to the main highway that goes from I think it's where is it? It goes past Diamond Lake towards Roseburg, I think. The main highway, kind of, if you're familiar, you can look it up. But he takes me to the main highway off of the Crater Lake Road. And as he's talking to me, he told me he had just driven all the way from, I think it was like somewhere like San Francisco or something. He drove all the way to Crater Lake to see the lake. And he had just gotten there, and now that he was there was snow and all kinds, it's all socked in with clouds, and he couldn't even see the lake. So him finding me there, it was a product of him just driving this vast distance, and there's nothing there. That's what a story he told me anyway. He can't see the lake, and so he just picked me up because he saw me and I looked cold and wet. So he drove me all the way. He kept driving along the Crater Lake Road because he was coming south to north, and I needed to go north to connect with the highway, so he just kept driving all the way north to the end of the Crater Lake Road and dropped me off at the highway and turned around and went back. Whether or not the story he told me was true, maybe it was true, maybe he was just telling me something, maybe he just magically appeared because of my prayer, and I don't know, but all I know is I got picked up, and then from there, from the highway, I started walking down the highway with my thumb up, and I got picked up by some guy in a mini Winnie, like a small RV, and that guy was heading towards Bend or towards Sun River or something, and he drove me all the way to Sun River, and he enlightened me about the van life and RV life, and it was a mini Winnie, so that's a make and model of a type of RV, and if you could fast forward a little bit further down the road, I ended up getting a mini Winnie. That's around the time before I got arrested. That was the last vehicle I had, was a mini Winnie. I finally got my hands on one on my third season, hanging Christmas lights. So it was just kind of this, like, just meeting somebody that has it, him telling me about it, and then with coincidence later on I would have one too. But that was our conversation all the way back to Sun River. He drops me off in Sun River, which is just south of Bend. It's like 20 minutes south of Bend. My mom drove all the way back up from Redmond, so it was like a 45-minute drive for her. Comes and picks me up in Sun River, and then we drive all the way back down to Redmond. And then I end up. Sorry, these flies are driving me nuts. There's like 4 or 5 flies that are just going right in front of my peripheral vision, and all I can hear is zzz. But yeah, so I ended up, we make it back home. I don't even talk to my dad. Like, I don't even bother talking to him really much anymore, because every time I talk to him, he's just being an asshole. Every fucking night he drinks. Literally every single night, 7 days a week, he drinks alcohol. He just drinks his whiskey. Goes through a half gallon of whiskey every fucking week. So you do the math on how many drinks you have. So how many shots are in a half gallon of whiskey, and divide that by 7. That's how many drinks he has per night. This fly, dude, for real. So it's as true then as it is today. So every time I have been in Central Oregon, all the different times I've ever been in Central Oregon staying with my folks, it's the same story every fucking night with him. Getting drunk. Or whatever. So I ended up making it back to Central Oregon with my mom, and so from that point forward, I'm living at my parents' house. At that point in time, 2000, it'd be September 2016. I didn't have my own vehicle, and I was using my mom's car to get around town when I needed it, and we would share. I'm going to have to take a break. These flies are getting really bad, and I got 5 minutes left. The next video is going to talk about my Christmas light hanging job, which will include when Milwaukee came into my life and when I got my first RV. So that's what you can look forward to on this next cut. But right now I'm going to take a break because these flies are just, they're driving me nuts, and I can't focus. But yeah, so have a nice day. I'm not sure if the next video, if it'll be included in everything compiled together, or if it'll be an entirely different episode, because I've been talking for a while as it is. But yeah,